Good evening. It is time to call the meeting to order, so I'm going to do that. I'd remind you to turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate, and then let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amanda, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Councilmember Strebe.
Here.
Councilmember Dalby.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 11 on March 15th and special meeting number 12 on March 22nd, 2016 is presented. Acknowledge February financial report and payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. Proclamation of March 16th, 2016 as Christian Rushing Day. Proclamation of April 4th through April 10th, 2016 as National Public Health Week. Reappointment of Julie Zorn to the Civil Service Commission, term to expire April 5th, 2020, and the appointment of Larry Jarvis to the Planning and Zoning Commission, term to expire April 2019. Police Department appointment of Brett Roberts as police officer and authorized training costs in the amount of $7,638.87 for the cost of peace officer training. Set May 3rd, 2016 as the public hearing on the 2015-2016 amendment of the current city budget. Set April 19th, 2016 as the public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the 2016 asphalt street repair program. Set April 19th, 2016 as the public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the catch basin replacement program 2016. Resolution number 88, 2016, setting April 19th, 2016 as the date of a public hearing on the disposition of city-owned property located at 410 East Williams. Resolution number 97, 2016, fixing date for a meeting on the proposition of the issuance of not to exceed $3 million general obligation urban renewal bonds of the city of Ottumwa, state of Iowa for essential corporate urban renewal purposes and providing for publication of notice thereof and rescinding resolution number 75, 2016. Beer and/or liquor applications for Mad Avenue Quick Shop, 405 South Madison Avenue, pending final inspections.
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Thank you. We need a motion for approval of tonight's agenda. Is there such motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Item D is reports from city officers, and the first item is general fund balance, and City Administrator Andy Moore is going to take that. So,
Yes, sir.
Andy?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, it's listed as agenda item H5. You will note establishing a reserve policy for the general fund. This is something that Bob J., Finance Director, and I have spent some time talking about and working on. What I like about the resolution is it sets forth parameters within which the city as a percent should have a general fund balance. The government finance officers say it should be somewhere between 15 to 20%, as you will note from, it looks like the fifth paragraph where it says as the annual expenditures will fluctuate, the city of Ottumwa will strive to maintain a fund balance between 15% and at 25%. In addition to that, it also has a provision in here that if it falls beneath that percent, then action will need to be taken by the city administrator, make certain recommendations to city council. I can just say from the perspective of putting one of these together previously, in my opinion, I think Bob has hit all of the right notes in terms of what that percent should be. And again, it's listed as a resolution. So again, that will be taken under this evening and voted upon. We won't have to bring that back.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for Andy? We'll
I have
have
one,
a
Your
chance.
Honor.
Go ahead.
Just for public knowledge, Andy, in the past, and I know Bob J's probably not here tonight, is he?
No.
Just for quick reference, what is the city usually maintained as a percent?
Usually it's around the 17 to 18% range, which actually is still
Okay.
pretty healthy.
So we've been pretty good in the past years.
That is correct. That's correct.
And also, just for clarification, this helps maintain our bond rating, correct?
Yes, this lends itself to maintaining, restoring the city's bond rating. As I said, asked one of these in the community I was in previously, and that's something Standard & Poor's looks at, particularly in Ottumwa's case when you're exceeding the GFOA guidelines.
Thank you.
I'll just make a mention that Bob J. is very faithful about attendance at City Council's meeting, but today he had the very wonderful and pleasant surprise. He became a grandfather this afternoon. So Bob is home with his family, and we appreciate that. As I have said to many of the council people, family first. So we want to congratulate the J family. Okay, item number 2 is in progress report, and I think Cam Reeves is going to take care of that. So Cam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will try to be brief and just give you a summary of the many things that we've done at the water pollution control this past year. We passed our recertification of our state licensed laboratory. We've gone through a successful audit by EPA of our pretreatment and biosolids program. In the past 12 months, all of our MORs were submitted to DNR. We've had no effluent violations. We had our biosolids annual report submitted to DNR. We went through a mock OSHA walkthrough conducted by the Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities. Any inadequacies were corrected within the first 2 weeks and reported back to Bob J. with pictures. This past year, we treated 2,038,101,000 gallons of raw wastewater. We land applied almost 5 million gallons of liquid biosolids on farm fields. We land applied 471 tons of pressed biosolids. We put a new roof on the lab section of our administration building. We went through 154 hours of safety training for staff, almost 400 hours of training for staff to complete our required CEUs, which are required by DNR to maintain our licenses. We began construction on our required disinfection system, which is ultraviolet. Must be completed by this September 1, and we must be in complete compliance with all of our new E. coli limits by October 1 this year. Our 2 newest operators successfully passed their grade 2 tests, are now eligible to work shift. We also had our lab tech pass her grade 1 test. We had a stormwater inspection. We are currently updating our pollution prevention plan for that. We have updated and converted all of our MSDS, material safety data sheets, to safety data sheets to comply with global harmonization standards. We replaced 3 pumps this year at Elm Street, Barton's Branch, and Quincy. All of our fluorescent and high-pressure sodium lamps, if they burn out, we are replacing them with cost-effective LED lights. We constructed a road from Vine Street by Mart's Auto to Finley Pump Station so we could avoid driving on our levee and trail system. We performed maintenance on 6 of our 16 generators at the pump stations, which included changing filters, oils, and batteries. We've cleaned tubes on our heat exchangers to get rid of any buildup. We removed approximately 11 tons of dead fish from the grading at the lagoon pump station. This was to help assist ports and construction so they could keep on track with their construction there. We installed a new hydronic heater in our back room, which utilizes hot water from our heat exchanger system for cost savings. We put in a new expansion tank for our heat exchanger number 1. Staff has participated in fire extinguisher training provided by the Ottumwa Fire Department. This past year, water pollution control staff participated in the 4th annual scholarship fundraiser at DMAC, and this is for students in the Water Environment Technology program. This past year, we raised a record $23,500. We passed all of our 2015 discharge monitoring report, quality assurance, which is a steady 34 test. You must receive an acceptable on each of these tests every year to maintain your lab certification. We performed over 21,000 tests in the lab this year. That included testing for 16 towns and 12 industries on a regular basis. We hauled 392 tons of grit and screenings and sewer sand, both from the plant and from Elm Street Pump Station. We have to go through our maintaining and calibrating of lab equipment. So we've completed that. We collect data and samples from 11 combined sewer overflows, 11 TMDLs, and 4 MS4s. Had our industrial pretreatment coordinator, he performed his annual industrial waste survey again. He performed 665 industrial sampling events. Our maintenance staff performs the upkeep and routine maintenance on 116 pumps and 138 motors at the plants and 30 pump stations around town. And current projects and upcoming projects, we are in the middle of our UV disinfection project. If approved tonight, we will begin our secondary clarifier flow splitter project in June. We have had the University of Iowa Hydraulics Research Lab. They've just completed our first ever bathymetric analysis, which is in our NPDES permit required by DNR. We will be finishing up our air quality permitting. That will be done by HDR. That's due in May at DNR. We are in the process of updating our stormwater permitting, our pollution prevention plan. We will be installing our waste gas burner this year. We will be going through a pipe replacement at Grandview Pump Station. And the last two things are an upgrade of our PLC system for both the headworks and at the airport main pump station. And I would entertain any questions.
Any questions for Cam?
Any comments?
One question, Kim. What's
Yes.
our total number of staff at wastewater?
15, one of those is halftime.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I would encourage our new council to set up times with Cam to go down and visit our wastewater treatment facility. It's a very comprehensive and certainly is going to become more and more important as we look at some of the new standards coming out. So we'll expect some more reports on an ongoing basis from you, Cam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think at this point, Andy, you wanted to make a few comments about the budget amendments?
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, you have received, and hopefully you don't have it in front of you, we'll get you a copy. Christy McDowell, our senior accountant, put together a list of 2015, 2016 budget amendments. One way to describe these, I've seen are due tos and due froms, various sundry accounts. I would encourage you to look at the expenses and the revenues. One item I do want to point out, I'm not going to go through this verse in scripture, but when you see an expense item, that doesn't mean that that has fallen outside the confines of the budget. There are expenses at times that come that are not budgeted. We'll take out a fund balance or we'll take from another fund. You may recall the discussion we had a couple of months ago regarding improvements to the upgrade to the Go TV system. You recall that I believe it was about $19,000 or so that was left over from the elevator project. So I would encourage council to read through these. And again, Bob J. and I have talked about this at some length. If you have questions or comments, please share those with us and let us know. All things being equal, what we would want to do, it would get feedback from council on or before the 15th of April. If you have any questions about this, if you still have questions, we'll go ahead and set the public hearing and then ultimately a meeting then, I believe, on the 19th. But please look through this. I don't see anything in here innocuous, but look through it. Share with Bob or myself any questions or concerns you may have. The last item I want to make mention of, Alicia Hauk, who works at Indian Hills Community College, and she has worked rather extensively. Councilman Matt Dolly has worked with her. I know there was a meeting set up about a month or two ago with Dean Ratchey, our Parks Director, and Matt to talk about some plantings, flowers, and shrubs and various sundry other items. I'm going to call upon Councilman Dalby here in just a moment because he's been the lead contact with her. But she's indicated an interest in undertaking some plantings at various locations in town, and would like to be, we have planned her anyway, to be on the agenda as an information piece at the 19th April meeting. With that, Mayor, if you don't mind, I would like to turn it over to Councilman Dalby for a little bit and ask him to make some further comments.
Sir, Councilman?
Sure. Thanks, Andy, and Your Honor. I've been in contact with Alicia Houck, like City Administrator said. She is a instructor at Indian Hills Community College with an earth science background, and she came to us about a year ago with an idea to do two things. Mainly, one was to help beautify the city, and number two was to help cut down on the maintenance and mowing that the city has to do by using wildflowers in some of the city's medians and possibly some of the down ramps, depending how successful they turn out, and maybe in some of the parks. And like I said, two goals of that. One is cut down on the mowing and the amount of mowing we have to do with all the acreage we have in our parks, and to cut down on the mowing and the safety, some of which is an issue with our medians being very close to some of the streets we have and the Wapello Street extension, those type of things. So she has met with the Parks Director Ratchie and did a test bed over in the Sycamore Park area by the beach to see how that would work. And far as I know, that was somewhat successful, fairly successful. And she has been in contact with me over the past several months, actually year, and would like to step that up and try some test beds in the medians, salt-resistant perennials, wildflowers, and that also aids in pollination and those types of things with lots of bees we have too. So I think she'll be here on the 19th. In fact, I know she will. She's getting a presentation together to give before the council as an information piece, do a short PowerPoint to kind of see and show people what that would be like. And then with the help of hopefully Larry and Public Works, maybe some traffic control, Gene Ratchie will be hopefully attempting to do some of that this spring. But I think it's a good idea, and hopefully it'll help the city too.
Mayor, if I might add, again, I appreciate Councilman Dalby's work on this. I know he's been in correspondence with her at least for the last year. And again, look forward to having her meet with council, make that presentation. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay. The only other comment I would make at this point is tomorrow, April 6th, is National Walk Day. And as you recall from your consent agenda, we did support National Public Health Week. And tomorrow there is a walk at 12:30. It's going to be meeting at the skate park area, and it's open to any citizen in the community. We'd like to have people join and walk. They're really putting the emphasis as part of the University of Iowa's Active Ottumwa program, and so we just want to make sure that you're all aware of that. And 12:30 at the skate park tomorrow. Free, a 30-minute walk is the goal, 150 minutes a week, I think. So good for all of us to get a little exercise. Okay, item E. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to address an item on the agenda, now's the time to give us your name. And have you received any, Amanda?
I have not.
Okay, then we'll move on to F, Department Reports. And I think consideration of the drug task force. Chief, you're up.
You read it?
Yes.
Consideration of Drug Task Force Beer and Jack Grant. Recommendation, approve the submission via the internet and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second. Okay. Chief, go ahead.
Mayor and council, this grant application includes funding for the 2 Ottumwa police officers. The city is responsible for the required 25% match for these 2 positions, which has been included in the 2016-17 budget. Additional task force expenses will be financed by assessments made to other task force member agencies. This will be the 27th year this grant has provided funding for the drug task force.
We've all received a copy or have access to that. Any questions for the chief?
Chief, I have one quick question for you on that, if I might. This grant going to fund 2 positions, which I think is great, needed very badly, especially in the drug enforcement area. The concern I have, though, and maybe you might help me feel better about this, is this grant, is it funded every year? Do we apply for this every year and get this grant?
Yes, this is our 27th year we've applied for it. It's a competitive grant.
And it seems like it's awful large this year. Is it compared to last year's pretty big funding?
We asked for the same amount, but we never get, we get about 30% of what we ask for.
Well, these 2 positions ongoing, is it pretty sure that they'll be funded continually? Because my concern is if this grant is reduced, or what happens when it's not enough to fund these 2 positions?
If it ever comes to where we don't get any funding, those officers will come back to the Ottumwa Police Department as patrolmen.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Discussion. Any other comments or questions?
Excellent program, Chief. Glad we're applying for it again.
I have one question. Does this include the grant application that you're setting? Does it include annual increases every year for the officers?
Yes, yes. We ask for 75, the fund, or the grant will fund 75% of our officers' wages and benefits. It's been cut enough now that it doesn't cover all that. So the grant will only cover about 30% of what we really need to operate. I expect to get about $118,000. They've told us that it's leveled off. They've really cut us in the last 5 years. But now the Governor's Office of Drug Control Policy says that it's leveling off and we're going to continue to get about the same. So we usually, it's a competitive grant. There's several grants around the state. We usually end up being in the top 5 in the state. And therefore we actually get about 10% more than everybody else does in the state just because we finish at the top.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good questions, good comments. All right, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Award the contract for the air conditioning replacement for Fire Station Number 1, RFP Number 2, 2016. Recommendation, award the contract to Hinman Person Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $15,998 and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Larry, you have the floor.
Mayor, Councilman, the fire department has requested the engineering department to assist in obtaining bids for the replacement of an air conditioning unit for the second floor of Central Fire Station. There are 3 separate air conditioning systems for the fire station. The other 2 units have been replaced in 2000 and 2005. The units that serve the second floor dormitory is nearing 50 years and is the original equipment. The dormitory air conditioning unit provides tempered air for approximately 3,600 square feet of the dormitory space. The unit is difficult to service and is frequently freezing up and needing additional maintenance work. Engineering recommends replacing this unit. We'd replace it with a higher efficiency model to reduce electrical consumption and be eligible for the 2016 rebate from Alliant Energy. Quotes were requested from 3 contractors and 2 quotes were received. Staff recommends approving the quote from Heinemann Pierce Heating and Air Conditioning and executing the contract in the amount of $15,998. We will point out that there's an estimated $4,000 worth of additional work for electrical and roofing. And then the budget's listed below.
Any questions for Larry?
Larry, I have one. What's the life expectancy of this new unit that's coming in?
Well, I did list the parts and labor and the warranty on the compressor. Service life, you know what it is, 20 years.
20 years? Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Ottumwa Public Safety Advisory Board recommendations. Recommendation, approve the Ottumwa Public Safety Advisory Board recommendations.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Go ahead, Larry.
City staff discussed the attached request on February 11th, 2016 with the Ottumwa Public Safety Board and approved the request on March 21st. One of the things I would like to note is the Ottumwa School District has implemented internal process where all the requests for pedestrian traffic changes are going to be processed through Chuck Bray, which is the Director of Buildings and Grounds. First item was a request to have Ferry and Mary intersection made to a 3-way stop intersection. The recommendation is to deny the request for a permanent stop sign since this is a short duration occurrence during school days at drop-off and pickup times. The Traffic Committee recommended the current use of crossing guards with roll-out stop signs to be used. The roll-out stop signs can be supplemented with a folding edge pavement sign. And these signs would be locked outside of school day drop-offs and pickup window. And then we have the times listed. The second request was for a school crosswalk and a portable sign be placed in the front of entrance to Dalman parking lot. And this would allow parents to turn into the parking lot one at a time.
I think there was probably some confusion when we started this process. That was a request from someone. And since that time, and after talking with the staff, the school had withdrawn this request. So we're not going to do that at this time. The third was a crosswalk and a portable stop sign be placed in Evans Middle School on Chester. One of the things, we're going to do that this summer. We're making a recommendation to approve this. We will cut in a handicap drop and paint the drop during the summer break time, and the school will reimburse us for that work. And then we just had several discussion items on Market Street during the construction of River Hills. We looked at the short duration of the construction of the expansion of River Hills and did not think that it would be prudent to put a mid-block crossing down when we think that within a few months, the original River Drive crosswalk will be open again to the pedestrian traffic.
Larry, I'm going to take you back to the schools. There's a request for a sign on Ferry Street.
Yeah, what we're going to do there, instead of putting in permanent stop signs where we didn't feel like we wanted to stop traffic all day, weekends included, they're going to do some rollout signs, and then we're going to make some supplemental signs that either fold or turn and lock out on the side. We're going to use dual signs. They're single face, but dual signs that basically line up with the gutter line of Ferry. This would allow a stop condition to occur during just drop off and pick up at the school.
I'd like the council to be aware, this is a very active committee, and I had the privilege of sitting in on it. The chief of police, public works, fire department, and 5 citizens run that committee and do an outstanding job questioning and reevaluating all the factors, and there's usually lively discussion and consideration of all the issues that they bring forth. So appreciate the volunteers that they give their time to do this.
Well, one thing on an item like this, Mayor, and you have an opportunity to be exposed to the conversation, is a lot of times when you solve one problem, you create another. And that's one of the things that we try to do, is look forward and see if we do this, then what other problems arise. And sometimes it's fluid and we have to go back.
Any questions for Larry?
Your Honor, I have a few.
Sure.
Larry, which one did you say was withdrawn?
The one in front of Dalma to put a stop sign for the driveway at the parent drop-off section.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit, and Your Honor, if you might give me a few minutes here. I think this is an important issue because I've received a lot of concerns from parents, concerns from volunteer firefighters, concerns from people on the south side about traffic issues from Liberty to Dalma and all up and down there. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Safety Advisory Board this round. They did a great job looking at these issues. And we've talked several times about it, and they made some good calls here. And I'm glad to see a rollout sign at Ferry in Mary. That was one that was badly needed there. Dalma, my son goes to Dalma. My wife teaches there. I've observed that many times, and I think we all know there's an issue there with stuff. And I know enforcement is hard to do with a limited amount of police officers, and we have issues with parking on the side of the road there that isn't always quite followed. The area there where parents pull in to drop their students off, I know parents don't always pull in all the way and drop their students off. That creates a backlog of traffic. And I believe it is eastbound traffic there sometimes doesn't have an opportunity to pull in and drop their kids off. And it's kind of a debacle there. But I want to go back for a minute. And I think it needs to be talked about of why we got to the point we're in now. And I think it needs to be mentioned that at one time, and you may need to come back, and I know Ed, I don't know if he needs to jump in here either, but at one point, I think in our conversations, there was a plan submitted, I think, by the district. And I'm not sure how this all quite goes back, and I may get it wrong. That was submitted a site plan for these two schools. And from what I've gathered from our conversations, this went back to the city. The city, in partnership with the DOT, came up with another plan. Am I correct so far?
Well, we used a lot of the standards that they're the same for the DOT, but on our jurisdictional roads, they don't really have input. We just follow the standards for DOT.
Standards, though, are there for and I don't know if this is true or not for a reason, basically for safety and getting traffic flow and that type of thing. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, they develop over time. You know, it's a trial and error process. A lot of the committees that develop these type of standards, I mean, it's not uncommon for a standard to change, be 5 years worth of review by, you know, a multi-jurisdictional state before it becomes a standard within that. And that's the way all specifications work.
Right. Okay, and so that plan came forth too, and so those plans probably were looked at, and one plan was chosen over another, basically. Is that what happened?
Usually that's the way it is during a site plan. You know, a lot of times you'll look at, here's the best case scenario. You know, it'd be nice if we could bracket a school with 4 streets, you know, to where we have multiple access points all the way around it. Sometimes with site placement of schools, you know, they go out to the edge of the town area where they have a lot of ground that's undeveloped. And then you get into conditions like we do with the new Liberty School, where you basically have, you know, one major frontage road and then a couple side roads to feed. Of course, the west one for the bus and then student and parent drop off on the east side.
Right, and I remember you made a comment that anytime you have a school with one main access road, you're going to have issues. So we know there at both of those. But to make a long story short, and I'll end up wrap this rant up. Basically, it was chosen to go with, you know, and we all have to live in budgetary confines. We do as a city, we do as a school district. But what we need to realize here is we have an issue with traffic. We have a budget we have to live by, but we need to at least ongoing, and you've been very good to work with on this. I think Chuck Bray, too, with the school district knows we have an issue here at Dalma we need to address somehow within a budget. Keep it low cost, but we do, at least as a city council, I know all of us know we have an issue here. The school district, I know, knows we have an issue here, but I think we're going to keep on going and keep looking at this and trying to come up with a good solution, because I know for our kids' safety, just like we looked at Wilson, I think there still needs to be ongoing discussion. I think you alluded to the fact that you guys will go and look at this and continue to work to try to make it safer.
Well, part of our discussions and one of the discussions Chuck and I have was, you know, what they're looking at internally. You know, they're trying to decide with the footprint that they have, what could they do to improve the situation internally. Back to your comment, you know, it sounds like after talking to all the players that are on site the majority of the time, what really creates the dilemma is when a single parent pulls into the driveway and they stop across the sidewalk to allow one child to get out, and they block everybody else from the area that the school installed and created for a parent drop-off. There's a stacking area all the way along where the teachers park or staff parking, and it's not utilized when you have one parent decide that that's where he needs to stop or her. And even if it's only for 30 seconds or a minute, then you back that whole platoon of traffic up, and that's what creates a dilemma. And I think you know, based on listening to their staff, they've attempted to encourage parents to pull all the way through and comply with the intent of the design, but that's a lot easier said than done.
And they have, and I know they have, and I just hope we can continue to work with the district and keep this on in front of us, because I know we don't want, like with Evans, end up with the child getting hit. That's something none of us want to see in the paper or experience. So thanks for your work, and thanks to the board for their work.
I would just add, because as Larry said, I was there for the meeting. I think there was great discussion, and a couple of our members, I think, have some traffic experience and have a background in public safety. And they did also talk that they would be willing to entertain any ideas after they tried something for a while to see how it works. So I think they're aware of this as an ongoing issue, and we're going to monitor it and pay attention. And I think it was great to have the school's input. And again, I'm impressed with the committee work that they did. So I just want you to be assured that we're going to pay attention to it. Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, though, I would also commend the school district for appointing Mr. Bray as maintenance person, and being that a lot of these issues go through them directly. I think that was a really good move, so appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then the motion is to approve the recommendations of the OPSAP, so take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Approve a memorandum of understanding with Venue Works regarding facility maintenance for the Bridgeview Center. Recommendation, approve the memorandum of understanding and authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay, we'll do that to Matt. Good evening, Dwight. You have worked on this, so you have the floor, and tell us what you're doing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Council. The agreement between the City of Ottumwa and Venue Works LLC stipulates in part that Venue Works is responsible for all the facilities and maintenance, the equipment and equipment maintenance. In consideration of maximizing the service life of all this equipment, city staff felt that clarification needed to be added to help clarify the contract to avoid broad-based interpretation of the contract language. The Memorandum of Understanding breaks facilities maintenance down into its various components: health, safety, security, testing and inspection, cleaning, procurement, deferred, and preventative maintenance. Also included is an assessment period where city staff and Venue Works staff will collaborate and put together an inventory of all the facility equipment and all the different aspects of the facilities to develop an extensive inventory and a comprehensive facility maintenance program. Approval of this memorandum of understanding will benefit both parties in producing operational efficiencies as well as budgeting assistance. The operational efficiencies will be realized by following the comprehensive maintenance programs, maximizing the service life of the various equipment. Budgeting assistance will include following the capital equipment inventory that will be developed and using the estimated replacement cost, the estimated repair cost, as well as the estimated service life. In conclusion, the initial investment of the staff time, the deliverables for this memorandum of understanding will provide tools that will save the City of Ottumwa and Venue Works time and expense over the useful service life of the Bridgeview Center, and also could serve as a model for other city facilities. I might point out at this time that Bridgeview Inc. and Venue Works has signed the memorandum of understanding. Scott Hallgren, Executive Director of the Bridgeview Center for Venue Works, is in the audience. He helped me develop this memorandum of understanding. We will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Andy?
Mr. Mayor, if I might just augment a little bit what Dwight mentioned, and that is, I want to give credit to the Public Works Department, Larry Seals, and also Dwight in particular. This is, quite frankly, memorialized this maintenance agreement that is now in place with the city and Venue Works / Bridgeview. But I think it's worth noting that in addition to that facility, Dwight, through his offices, is also has established maintenance plans for City Hall. Now, Dwight, you may have to help me out if I get too far afield. I believe the Public Works Garage. If it's all right with council, I may ask him to list those. I just want to make the point, this maintenance agreement, which I give him complete credit on, this was an idea that we came up with. But if it's all right with council, Mr. Mayor, perhaps have Dwight list some of the other facilities.
Go ahead, Dwight.
Well, what we've done is we've initiated the energy audits for all the various city facilities. But our long-term goal would be to follow this program like what we're going to be doing at the Bridgeview Center and apply that to all the city facilities so that we can have a comprehensive city facility maintenance program. Since I've been here, I can't begin to tell you how many times I've heard we just can't continue to do things like how we have been. And I'm hoping that this will be a step in the right direction so we don't do that, so that we get ourselves on the right track and we start maximizing the service life that we have of the equipment that we purchase and we take care of it.
I think this is an area that we've been talking about. I know our previous council talked about a facilities manager and doing more preventative maintenance, and that will cut down on some of our emergencies and problems that we've encountered. So I'm really pleased, and Dwight, as the city engineer, has lots of experience with this, did this in Cedar Rapids for a number of years and elsewhere. So we have some good leadership and we appreciate it. And I also want to compliment Scott. He's been great to work with and very actively involved in the process with Dwight. So we have good teamwork. Any other questions, comments?
I'd like to comment. I just wanted to say this is a really good thing going forward, and hats off to everybody involved. I think it's exactly what the city of Ottumwa needs. We need to be looking into the future as opposed to band-aiding things as they go along. So great job, and I hope we can make this transcend to every other department in the city as well.
Thank you.
Ditto. Thank you.
Thanks much.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Water Pollution Control Facility Secondary Clarifier Flow Splitter Project. I've received no objections on this item.
Okay. Cam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The approval of this project will allow modifications to be made to the existing secondary clarifier flow split structure, so the two secondary clarifiers can be taken offline and isolated to perform dewatering and servicing of the structures. This project was originally going to consist of a complete replacement, but due to several unknowns and the higher costs, it was decided to go ahead and just do the modifications. Current construction estimates are $160,000 for the project.
Okay, any questions for, well, this is open hearing, excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 44, 2016, approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Water Pollution Control Facility's Secondary Clarifier Flow Splitter Project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 44, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Now, any questions for Cam about this? Okay. Hearing none, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cam.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the intent to dispose of city-owned property located at 302 North Moore. I've received no objections on this item.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Jody.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the first two placarded properties that the city will be selling this evening. We accepted sealed bids until March 22nd for the sale of this property, and we received no bids on it. So at a later time, Ed Black offered the city $250 for the property. Staff recommends accepting the offer from Mr. Black. And in addition, there are over $900 in property taxes owed on this house. And with the sale of this property, Mr. Black will pay those property taxes as well. This house is on the city's south side, and it is very dilapidated. The city obtained it through the 657A program. And I think repairing it instead of demolishing it will be a better option for us.
This is also a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item.
G2.
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 82, 2016, accepting the offer and approving the sale of city-owned property located at 302 North Moore to Ed Black for the sum of $250. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 82, 2016.
Move the recommendation as follows.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Jody that she hasn't already touched on? Okay, hearing none, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the intent to dispose of city-owned property located at 337 North Weller. I received no objections on this item.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you, Mayor. This property, the city accepted sealed bids until March 29th. We received one bid from Celia Fuentes in the amount of $500, and we recommend selling the property to her for rehabilitation.
This also is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this issue. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 83, 2016, accepting the bid and approving the sale of city-owned property located at 337 North Weller to Celia Fuentes for the sum of $500. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 83, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Jody? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the beach boiler replacement project. I received no objections on this item.
Okay. Good evening, Gene. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This project involves removal of existing installation of a new indoor pool boiler, expansion tank, heat exchangers, actuator valves, isolation valves, temperature sensors, associated plumbing at the beach at Ottumwa, 101 Church Street. Construction on this project is scheduled to begin August 29th, 2016. Bids will be received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on April 27th, 2016. The bid report and bid award recommendation will be presented at the city council meeting on May 3rd, 2016. The engineer's cost estimate on this project is $125,000.
And Gene, you might make the comment, this was part of our CIP program last year.
Correct. This is part of our current CIP program. This is not part of the upcoming $2.8 million worth of repairs.
Okay. Okay, this is also a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address this issue? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 85, 2016, approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the beach boiler replacement project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 85, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Gene? Anything? Okay. Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the Ottumwa Transit Consolidated Funding Application. I received no objections on this item.
Okay, I believe Andy Morris is going to address this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll fill in briefly for Dave Silverio on this. As you will note from the staff summary, the funds that are received there is both federal and state funding. The federal funding is from the Federal Transit Authority. You will note in total, it's $567,129. This is annual funding, again, from the feds and the Iowa DOT. Again, just to pick up from what's listed in the staff summary, these are primarily for operations. This does not run to a capital item. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have at the public hearing.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 87, 2016, approving the Ottumwa Transit Consolidated Funding Application and authorize the mayor to sign. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 87, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the intent to dispose of city-owned real property described as a vacated alley lying south of Romer Avenue and west of North Street between lots 20 through 24, a first addition to Styles Place to Kevin Luke. I received no objections on this item.
Good evening, Ed. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
On July 21st of last year, the city council vacated the alley south of Romer and to the west of North Street. Property owner to the west has given up her right to one half of the alley contingent upon Mr. Luke constructing or building a gravel driveway. Since then, he has built the driveway. It's been inspected by the city and approved. Title transfer will be by quitclaim deed. The width of the alley is 8 foot wide. I'm available if you have any questions, Mayor.
Okay, this is also a public hearing, so if there's anyone that wants to address this item. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 89, 2016, approving the disposal of city-owned real property described as a vacated alley lying south of Romer Avenue and west of North Street between lots 20 through 24, a first addition to Stiles Place to Kevin Luke. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 89, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Ed?
I got one. You said, how many feet wide is this?
It's an 8 foot wide alley.
8 foot wide.
Yes.
I thought all alleys were wider than that. You can't already drive a vehicle on that.
It's one of those older plats in which, they put it as an alley, but in reality, is it a functional alley? Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed $100,000 general obligation bonds. I received no objections on this item.
And I think, again, Andy, are you going to cover this?
I'm sorry, which specific item again?
Number 7.
G7.
D7. Oh, yes. That is an item that is listed, again, that $100,000 general obligation. That is, quite frankly, used for us. It's not to say that those will be issued. That is a potential revenue source for the city, and Bob just asked that be put in front of council and approved.
This is also open to public hearing. Is there anybody that wants to address that item? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 96, 2016, instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed $100,000 general obligation bonds. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 96, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
I think it's worth mentioning for the record that this $100,000 is set aside for the asbestos abatement in the building here, and our bond attorney requires us to identify what we're drawing that money for. So it's in your record, but the public would not know that if they didn't have a copy of that. So, okay, there's a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 67, 2016, approving the administrative services agreement for the Fire Department Inspection and Compliance Program Services between the City of Ottumwa and Breyer LLC. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 67, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. And we have with us tonight Assistant Chief Corey Bench. So Corey, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What this is a simple database that allows us to track which businesses are in compliance and which have inspections due. It offers us a mapping system to make us more efficient in doing our fire inspections. No cost associated with this to the city. Basically, the businesses and the contractors pay a fee of $10 per inspection. So just to help us be more efficient on our inspections and make sure our businesses with sprinkler systems, alarm systems, kitchen hood systems are in compliance.
Any questions for Corey? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you, Corey.
Resolution number 81, 2016, fixing an amount for abating a nuisance against certain lots in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 81, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening again, Jody. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The city demolished 2 houses. They were burned houses. The costs were subsequently billed to the property owners, and those bills remain unpaid. So now we intend to assess them to the property taxes. Total costs for the demolitions and these assessments, $20,985.05.
Any questions for Jody?
Jody, what's the chances of the city ever recovering that amount of money?
Pretty slim.
So if one of those was a buildable lot or, well, a buildable lot, would the city or would you recommend foregoing those taxes so they could build on it and we get it back on the tax roll?
If we actually had somebody who wanted to do that, typically what's going to happen is the taxes will become delinquent, the city will become the owner of the lot, and then we'll sell it to someone, hopefully who wants to build on it. More typically, it's those people who want additional yard space and green space.
Are they decent enough to put a home on?
One of them might be. Another one, the one on West 2nd Street is, it's probably not where you would want to put a house.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How long does that process take, Jody?
It can take over 2 years.
Matt, or Mark, excuse me.
Aside from putting it on the property tax assessment, do we, as a community, have any form of recourse to the property owners for this amount of money?
Not that I'm aware of. I guess that might be a question for the city attorney.
Okay.
Not really. It would be tax assessed on the real estate taxes, and otherwise, the only other possibility would be to try to sue them in district court or small claims court, depending on the amount. But if they can't pay their property taxes, they're probably judgment proof as well. So we look at each situation to see what we can do, and normally it's just not an option to proceed further.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just to clarify one thing, so this goes through this process. We don't receive the money in property taxes anyway. We wait 2 years. We have title to the property, and it seems like, and I think there's been some discussions with the land banking opportunity. So we just waste a bunch of time just not to get our money back. Seems like we could be doing this a lot faster. What do you think the county would feel about that? Just doing the taxes and getting this pushed through even farther. I know there have been talks about doing that.
Talks about
Land banking and getting this whole thing done a little quicker.
I think that we have talked with different entities about land banking, but there still has to be a mechanism to acquire title to the property.
Right.
And so somehow that has to be done. The city has the best opportunity right now to acquire title to the property through the tax sale process. If we can't get the property owner to give us title, then that is about our only option. Now, once we obtain title to the property, the city could, I think if a mechanism was created, we could transfer the property to a land bank, but one has never been established or set up here locally.
Seems like people are working on it. It looks like something good to be working on since we have a housing issue in the town.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, let's take the roll then.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 84, 2016, awarding the contract for the sidewalk drop and detectable warning installation project 2016. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 84, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Larry. Floor.
This is the fifth contract and consists of the installation of sidewalk drops, detectable warnings at various locations throughout the city of Ottumwa. The completion of these sidewalk drops and detectable warnings will be a step toward the compliance of the ADA transition plan. The transition plan was approved by council on August 7th, 2012. The city owned and maintained intersections are one portion of the ADA requirements. The overall project was originally estimated at $1,280,000, and we target $120,000 a year for construction. Bids were received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on March 30th, 2016 at 2 p.m. 5 sets of plans were mailed and 2 bids were received. The low bidder is M4I Concrete from Sigourney, Iowa, in the amount of $100,525.
Any questions?
Larry, yes. So in a conversation this morning, in fact, with some people, pointed out this commitment from the city for over $1 million for this 10-year program, and it being a unfunded mandate from the government, federal government. But one of the persons asked me, hey, so when we set up this projected 10-year million plus, they're aware that the cost of construction every year increases. So in actuality, over the 10-year period, will we end up spending more than what we had?
Most likely. I mean, for instance, we've just seen with the sale of the Skyline Concrete, an increase of $8 per yard for concrete in one season. So, that's roughly 8%.
Yeah. I thought it was a good question, and I thought, yes, we sure will then, probably over the. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 86, 2016, awarding the contract for the Ferry Street and Hamilton Street reconstruction projects. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 86, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
Ferry Street will consist of approximately 525 linear feet of complete full-width, full-depth Portland cement pavement reconstruction along with Ferry Street between Chester and Finley Ave. Hamilton Street reconstruction will consist of 585 linear feet of full-width, full-depth PCC reconstruction from Osceola Street west to the cul-de-sac. Bids were received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on March 30th, 2016 at 2 p.m. 13 sets of plans were mailed and 4 bids were received. The low bidder is Phi Excavating, Inc. out of Sperry, Iowa, in the amount of $361,069.97. One of the things that we had planned and mentioned before, that ferry will be done while the school is in summer recess.
So is there a possibility Hamilton will be the first one?
Once we approve this, then we'll set up and get the contract documents and insurance and stuff in place, then we'll work with the schedule. Our understanding was they were going to work them in conjunction.
Good. Any other questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Larry, in the minutes last time from the previous meeting, resolution number 71, approving plan specs, form of contract, and estimated cost for ferry in Hamilton be passed and adopted. Those are from March 15th meeting. I must be a little confused. What did we do there?
Well, originally when Ferry Street was bid, and I had that on the top of the staff and I kind of skipped it. The bid come in significantly over the engineer's estimate.
Right.
And we went and called the contractors that had plan sets for Ferry Street. And what they told us was it just wasn't quite big enough job for them to mobilize and come down in this area. So if you look, we rejected those bids through resolution 52, 2016. And then we relet Ferry combined with Hamilton to get a bigger project. And then looking at our unit prices, we were able to come down on some of our concrete prices and stuff.
Okay, I was under the impression they came in too high. I just didn't know that they weren't able to mobilize. I guess I must have skipped that step. Sorry, Skip, I told you already passed that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Good clarification, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 91, 2016, approving policy number 60, 2016, general fund balance reserve policy for the city of Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 91, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay. Okay, Andy, that's.
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Council, again, I don't want to bore you with this. Again, it simply sets the reserve policy again between a 15 to 25% coverage ratio. It backs up the general fund. This is a resolution. It does not have the effect of law. Does have the effect of policy. And again, is recommended by council for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions, comments you may have.
Any questions for Administrator? Andy, what's the reporting mechanism going to be for future if, let's say, it got dangerously close to under 15%?
No, that's a good question. Actually, it's listed in the staff summary. It indicates that the city administrator, and I'm just reading from that final paragraph, the city administrator is authorized to make recommendations to city council for use of reserves. The majority of the council will be required to use reserves. Any recommendation shall be accompanied by a proposal for replacement. So again, if it falls beneath that, then it's going to be a staff recommendation that'll come to council as to restorative measures that would need to take place.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to make one comment. I think this is a really good move for the city of Ottumwa to ensure that we do have a good sound fiscal base for us. So good work to you and Bob for bringing this forward.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Yeah. I would just point out, though, previous councils, our bond rating has been extremely good, as you pointed out earlier. And so I guess I'm in agreement with Councilman Rowe that this kind of locks it into it. But I just want to be clear that, in fact, over the last many years, Ottumwa has ranked it with a very high bond rating.
And Mr. Mayor, and Councilman Meyer's point, that is a point well taken. This certainly is a policy that can lend itself to further strengthening that policy, but absent, and there are some cities that have them and some do not, but not having a reserve policy is kind of like having a checkbook, but not knowing what your checkbook balance is. I think this brings, quite frankly, clarity to it. But again, to Ottumwa's credit, which I'm not going to take credit for, but to Ottumwa's credit, it has stayed very healthy within that range. In fact, coming very, very close to the high end of that 20% coverage ratio with GFOA. So it's, again, what Bob and I have set forward actually exceeds that ratio. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good clarification. Any other comments? Let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 92, 2016, awarding the contract to Turner Concrete Construction Incorporated of Ottumwa, Iowa for the apron improvements project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 92, 2016.
There a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Good evening, Mike. Mike Bainbridge, our airport supervisor. So you have the floor, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This project will replace the apron area already existing from the original naval base in 1945. It will remove and replace approximately 2,300 square yards of concrete. 5 bids were received ranging from $173,240 to $243,900. Bids were checked and reviewed by our consulting engineer, Kirk and Michael. Turner Concrete Construction is a low bidder at $173,240. The Iowa DOT Gabby grant will reimburse the city 85% of the final project cost amount to a maximum of $218,875. The remaining 15%, $38,625, will come from the airport fund balance.
Okay, any questions for Mike?
I would have one, Mayor. Mike, will we have to, the city, will we have to front that cost and then get reimbursed for it at the end, or will this just be something that we build?
Yes, we typically pay for it first and then get reimbursed.
Okay, and do you know what the turnaround time is on payment for that?
That would probably be a good question for Eric. It can range, you know.
Yeah, typically that's running.
So it's fairly expeditious then.
Yeah, when we, the contractor or the engineer has an invoice, it's approved through the city and then submitted on an application to the DOT for reimbursement.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Eric Johnson, who is the project engineer and also a pilot, and he's working very closely with Mike and the airport committee to keep us on target with these projects. So we appreciate your being here tonight, Eric. Any questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 93, 2016, amending established fees for the planning and development services for rezoning, conditional use permits, and variances. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 93, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening again, Ed. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is proposing to amend the city's fee structure or fee schedule to increase fees for rezones, conditional use permits, and variances. These fees have not been increased since 1983, so essentially 33 years since the department has increased those fees. It's long overdue. Staff has provided for you a comparison spreadsheet that lists jurisdictions, the cost they have for the entitlement, which is either an application or a rezone for that, and then an average cost for that. Included on the spreadsheet is the proposed fee and the established fee as well. The proposed fees for a rezone would go from $50 to $200. For a conditional use permit, it would be increased from $25 to $150, and for a variance, from $25 to $100. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions for Ed? Okay, take the roll then.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 94, 2016, establishing fees for planning and development services for preliminary plat, final plat, site plan review, temporary use permits, and fences. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 94, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Ed.
As was mentioned in the introduction, staff is proposing new fees for these particular services that the staff, that the department provides. That would be for preliminary and final plat, site plan approval, temporary use permits, and fences. The proposed fees for preliminary and final plat would be $100. Site plan review would be $50, and for temporary use permits and fence permits, that would be $5. I'm available if you have any questions.
I have a quick question. And even though these are comparable to other cities, when you do a site plan review and it involves a number of staff members, is that still does that cover our staff costs?
No. This is a process of trying to get there, yes. When you look at other jurisdictions, many of them do not have a site plan review fee because they are they have other fees that are associated with either the entitlement of getting it or the building permit for it. Our fees, we changed that process. It would go through the planning commission. That would include also the legal ad and staff's time. But it is slowly getting us to where we can be, where I think that the applicant is paying a fair share of the costs associated with it.
I kind of figured that. I just want to make that point because we were grossly under billing. I mean, it was just bad.
Well, I think at a administrative meeting too, it's noteworthy that fees have been presented in the past and have not always been approved by the council. So I think this is a step in the right direction. Keeping fees current and moving up gradually makes more sense than making a big jump. And I expressed that to the department head that made that comment at our staff meeting. I appreciate your frankness and your comments about that. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 95, 2016, approving change order number 3 for the Bridgeview Center Building Automation Control Project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 95, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Dwight, you have the floor again.
Thank you. Just as a refresher, we awarded a contract to Winger Contracting back in September 15th in the amount of $122,793. This is to replace the HVAC control system. On December 15th, 2015, we approved a change order in the amount of $18,195. And change order number 2 increased the contract amount by $25,172, and that was approved on February 16, 2016. We forewarned the council that when we undertook this project that we were going to encounter a number of pieces of equipment that are going to require repair, and so we requested a sizable contingency fund. So our contract, our budget amount for this project is there in your packet, $200,030. This is what I am hoping to be the end of this project as far as additional costs are concerned. We have one item to replace a variable frequency drive. There are 2 disconnects that we need to add. And also we found a piece of equipment that was chaotically wired without a neutral. So the cost of these additions is a total of $7,634.02. So if we add that with the previous change orders, our revised contract amount is $173,794.02. So I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Yeah, well, Dwight, just as I recall, Mr. Hogren gave kind of an update to the Bridgeview Advisory Board and has already, the staff and he have already noticed what this project has done in how much better the whole project, how much better it's working.
I might also add that we've, through the energy auditing process that we've been going through with Alliant, the auditor came back to us and said that with this system that we can expect to realize $50,000 savings in our electrical and gas usage each year.
Great, wonderful. I'd also like to compliment Bridgeview Inc. They contributed to this project and have assisted the city in getting the financing in order so we can move on this project and get it completed. So thanks to Bridgeview Inc. and the work of that committee. Are there any other questions or comments for Dwight? Hearing none, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 98, 2016, authorizing the mayor to sign and staff to submit the application for funding under the Iowa Department of Transportation's Aviation Grants Program for fiscal year 2017, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contracts upon funding being awarded. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 98, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. The IDOT Aviation Grants Program offers grants for aviation-related projects. The application will provide funding for a new Jet A fueling tank at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Once the mayor signs the application, the consulting engineer will submit the application to the IDOT approval. This resolution will authorize the mayor to sign contracts with the IDOT upon funding being awarded. The grant application is an 85-15 ratio of the total project cost. The local match will come from the airport fund balance. Basically, this is just, we're starting over on this grant cycle. So this is the start of the new grant cycle for what we're doing on the paving, just awarded to Turner. Same grant.
Any questions for Mike? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Resolution number 99, 2016, amending the original resolution approved on August 19, 2014. Said resolution number 214, 2014, approving and authorizing a loan and disbursement agreement with the Iowa Department of Finance Authority and authorizing and providing for the issuance of sewer revenue capital loan notes, series 2014, in order to provide for the funding of a sponsored project under the terms of a new series 2014 note to be issued in the principal amount of $5,105,000, which includes approval of a supplemental tax exemption certificate. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 99, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Andy, I think that
Yes.
falls to you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, as Ms. Fallon pointed out, this is associated, for those who remember back to the January, February timeframe, this is an extension of the SRF loan that the city received from the IFA, the Iowa Funding Authority, and this is specifically related to the Harris Branch project. That's why you will see the addition of the $305,000. Again, it's a sponsored project, so one way to, quite frankly, summarize this a little bit better is you get two projects for the price of one. And the city was able to do that, to take on these additional work in Park. And I believe in the long term, that will be a benefit to the city. I'll be happy to answer any questions and comments you might have with us this evening. Obviously, Mr. Seals is here and he can give a project update should you so desire.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And this may sound a little oversimplification of it, but why does this keep popping up? This keeps popping up, the same one.
I'm sorry.
Well, this resolution here, we've done this before. I know it's come up a couple times. Is this an amending? Is it amending this, or?
Well, essentially what it does is it extends that additional $305,000. It takes that to 5.1 million. But in real dollars, again, you're doing two of the projects. And again, I'll ask Mr. Seals to speak to this because Harris Branch is specific to really two areas. One is at the western end of town over by Highway 149, and then of course the eastern end at Harris Branch at Memorial Park. So maybe if it pleases council, Mr. Mayor, to have Mr. Seals step forward and he can provide further clarification.
Well, I remember asking Bob J. about this one other time when we did this, and I had him clarify the way this works with the interest and everything, and it was basically, I think, the same sort. I was just wondering what the difference between this one and the last one was that we did.
I don't have the other one in front of me, so I can't really compare them. I mean, the general gist is, as Andy described it, basically get a interest reduction, but you don't actually reduce the amount you borrow. You just take that interest, calculated interest reduction, and you use it on a separate project. That's what a sponsored project is.
More principal.
It's the same amount. You don't actually do anything with the loan amount. They just simply, in a sense, earmark a portion of it to be used in a special project. That way they can take that money and direct what type of project they do with it with certain type of benefits. Why this action, you need to talk to Bob probably. Or
Oh, I was going to share, I do have, thanks to our city clerk, a copy of the letter from our bonding attorney. And they make it very clear that each specific project has to be identified anytime that we spend that bonded money. So I think as I read this and we're adding the 305,000 in, it has to be identified and be on file and a record to please the bonding authority before they will let us place that out on the market. So there is additional documentation if you want to see that. I'd be glad to send that down. It gets back to Amanda though for her file.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, Mayor and Council indicated, as Larry pointed out, from the funding standpoint, this is a sponsored project, something we've discussed. But I just want to be clear on this. The notification relative to the Harris Branch project, that was done well before I came on board. You'd have to even go back. If my memory serves me correctly, Mr. Seals can verify this, I think even to the 2014 timeframe.
I think it's actually 2012-13.
Well, I believe the original application and process started in 12.
Yeah.
It was a new program that they developed. There was quite a few months in even just determining what they thought they would do with the money. So it was quite a process even to get here.
Very well.
Okay. All right, are you comfortable and ready to vote? Okay, call the question then. Let's go.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 100, 2016, declaring an official intent under Treasury Regulation 1.150-2 to issue debt to reimburse the city for certain original expenditures paid in connection with specified projects. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 100, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or?
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Council, again, this is an item that the mayor talked about before, the issuance of the general obligation bonds. It is indicated in the staff summary, you will note, this is simply money that will allow us to put funds towards the remediation of the asbestos problem that we have in our basement, and the funds will be used specifically for that purpose.
Okay, if there are no other questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 101, 2016, approving an easement with John and Karen Malone for the right to access and maintain Jefferson Drainage Ditch and authorize payment. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 101, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Larry, go ahead.
The Jefferson Drainage Ditch was straightened and widened in the early 80s as part of the Southside Flood Reduction Program. During the development of the original project, there were areas that easements were not attained. In an effort to resolve this and allow reconstruction of the ditch, city staff approached the property owner and negotiated a price for permanent easement to include both lots that will allow access of the Jefferson Drainage Ditch. Staff has worked closely with the property owner, and as part of the agreement, he will remove and reinstall the existing fence along the easements. This easement is critical in allowing the removal of trees and shaping this section of the ditch. The ditch banks will be reshaped to a 3-to-1 slope, and this will allow the area to be mowed. The necessary documents have been signed by the homeowner and will be recorded once approved. John and Karen Malone will be compensated $2,500 for the easement, and the city will pay the recording cost. To add a little more detail to that, once he had removed his fences, we were able to straighten the ditch and move it south approximately 12 feet. That removed it away from one of the existing homes on the north side of the bank, and we were able to also remove that, to take that slope down to 3-to-1, again, where we can maintain it.
Any questions or comments for Larry on this? I know this
Much needed, Larry. Thank you.
And I think the improvements, you can see the improvements you've made already, or the construction firm has. I know it was a concern of several of our past council, and want to assure them that it is being properly done, and should give us a lot of protection for years to come.
And there was a multitude of trees through this area, and that was one of the restrictions in this creek that allowed and would back up water in this area during the high flow events.
Any other questions? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3091, 2016, adopting temporary regulations for the Des Moines Register's annual bike ride across Iowa's overnight stay in Ottumwa to be effective on July 27th, 28th, and 29th, 2016. Recommendation, pass the second consideration of ordinance number 3091, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Joni?
I have nothing to add other than that this is the second reading for an ordinance that you previously amended.
And we amended to include Church Street.
Correct.
Okay. No other questions? Let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3092, 2016, amending zoning ordinance number 2088, 2015 of the City of Ottumwa, Iowa, as set forth in Chapter 38 of the Municipal Code, City of Ottumwa, Iowa, by amending Sections 3849, 38158, and 38178, City of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa. Recommendation A, pass the second consideration of ordinance number 3092, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the last three items on the agenda. This first amendment addresses greater flexibility for residential fences. It establishes a fence permit. It deletes the code provision requiring a 15-foot vision clearance triangle adjacent to driveways and alleys. It exempts from the sign code the Iowa Department of Transportation logo sign program, and it also removes city council approval for the CS1 zoning district as part of or to be consistent with the site plan review addressed in Appendix F of the Ottumwa Municipal Code. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions for Ed about this? I think he's done a good job of giving us lots of information. Okay, if there's none, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Recommendation B, waive the third consideration, pass and adopt ordinance number 3092, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Any questions on that? Pretty clear? Okay, let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
2016, amending zoning ordinance number 3088, 2015 of the City of Ottumwa, Iowa, and is set forth in Chapter 38 of the Municipal Code, City of Ottumwa, Iowa, by amending Sections 3860, 3861, Tables 3860 and 3834, City of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa. Recommendation, pass the second consideration of ordinance number 3093, 2016.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, Mayor. This amendment modifies the C4 zoning district, downtown mixed-use zoning district. It removes the minimum lot area, site area, and maximum total parking in the street yard as part of the development summary table. It adds new land uses to the land use matrix, and it also establishes the downtown design standards that are applicable to site, building, facades, and signage. I'm available if you have any questions.
In your summary, you mentioned there was a public meeting, you had good participation. So people have had the opportunity to hear about it and discuss it. Great. Any other questions for Ed? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3094, 2016, amending zoning ordinance number 3088, 2015 of the City of Ottumwa, Iowa, and as set forth in Chapter 38 of the Municipal Code, City of Ottumwa, Iowa, by changing the zoning classification on properties located generally described under Section 1 from C2 to C4, City of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa. Recommendation, pass the second consideration of ordinance number 3094, 2016.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments, Ed?
This is the amendment to establish it as part of the zoning map. This is the first amendment to it, to our zoning map that was adopted back in December. The general district boundary runs to the east of the Des Moines River to Jefferson Street. Then it proceeds northeasterly along Jefferson Street, northwesterly along 3rd Street, southwesterly along Washington Street to River Drive and to Market Street, and then back to the river to Jefferson Street. That's the boundary of the C4 downtown mixed-use district. Mayor?
Any questions for Ed? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
We're to item J, and I think at this point, I'd like to ask our staff, we had a request at our last regular meeting to have a recommendation on the Williams case. Is there any recommendation or comments you're going to make on that tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor, there may be someone from the audience that wishes to speak to that. That email went out yesterday afternoon, and spoke with Ms. Williams before it was sent. So I believe at this point you probably should, if your call, just open it up for questions and comments.
Before I do that, I will mention two things. Jody, you might want to mention the vendor meeting, which is for all vendors who want to participate in RAGBRAI. There's a public meeting. I have the 12th at 6 p.m. at Bridgeview. Is that correct? So again, spread the word. That's for anybody that wants to do any vending of any type, food, articles, whatever. And then I'd also give a plug to our local school system. We have the athletic club spaghetti dinner tomorrow night at the high school at, I think it starts at 5. Anyway, there is a spaghetti dinner at the high school sponsored by the athletic club, and they do a lot to help our community. Okay, item K. At this point, I see Jody, are you wanting to come step to? Okay. Okay, step up to the microphone and,
Yes. Good evening, City Council members, Mayor, City Administrator. My name is Jody Williams, and I live at 2619 Clearview Street. And I'm here to talk to all of you about the existence of private sewers in our community. I do have a packet here. I think I have. So if you don't mind sharing, I greatly appreciate that. I'd also like to say that I appreciate the telephone call from Mr. Moore this afternoon, as well as the email from Mrs. Keith regarding the city's legal position to our claim, and a letter that I sent on March 11th, as well as my presentation that I presented to you on March 15th. So thank you very much for those responses. Putting aside my personal sewer issues, I would like to make the following requests to you in writing. One, I would like the claim form that's available at the city clerk's office be updated, corrected, and include corrections. That was something I did request in my letter on March 11th as well as March 15th, and I did not hear back about the status of that. So I want to bring that to your attention once again. The other request that I have for you is that all sewers within the city limits be considered as public sewers and operated and maintained as such. When Mr. Morris phoned me yesterday, I inquired as to why the city can't or hasn't done this. He said never in his 28 years has he heard of such a thing. I went on to say that these so-called private sewers are not owned by anyone. There are no homeowners associations in operation in our community that are responsible for those quote-unquote private sewers. Mr. Morris then asked me how residents on public lines might feel if the city started to maintain private lines too. My response is that all homeowners pay a monthly sewer fee. Upon further thought, other responses might include that all of us pay property taxes regardless of the type of sewer line our home is served by. And I would like to add that I believe that none of our citizens would wish harm to our neighbors, family members, friends, or coworkers who may have been unlucky enough to have a home on a so-called private sewer line that they wouldn't want to see their sewer line serviced and maintained just as much as any public line. I was caught off guard by Mr. Morris's comment and that he would actually see our city and our citizens that way. Speaking of monthly sewer fees, I asked Mr. Morris why then was I being charged a monthly sewer fee? Overwhelmingly, our residents believe that if their home is within the city limits, they pay a monthly sewer fee due to not having a septic system, then their home is served by a public sewer line. I had a moment of conscience when paying my bill this month. Why was I paying it? Why? It was actually almost half of my monthly water bill. Why would any homeowner on a private line pay a monthly fee? Mr. Morris told me it was because eventually my line connects to a main line. Homeowners that find out that they are on private lines may need this explained more. It is hard to swallow the fee knowing that there's no service behind the fee. I'll just do a little aside. I had a text message right before I came into the meeting tonight, and it was from one of my neighbors who lives on Kenwood, who had a conversation with Mr. Seals this afternoon and was notified after living in her home for many, many years that she is indeed on a private line. And she asked Mr. Seals, well, what does that mean? And he said, I don't know, that he would give her information. And then she wondered to me aloud in the text message, does that mean I get a refund for all the years of paying a monthly sewer fee if my home is on a private sewer line? That's something she'll have to work out with all of you. The other thing that I am requesting is a map of the entire city denoting private and public sewer lines. I asked for an updated map just of our neighborhood from Mr. Seals on March 9th and have not received that information. Now I would like this information for the entire city, all the neighborhoods. I want to see where those private lines exist. Mr. Morris said the city does not know where all the private lines are, but they know where mine is. So I would like information about the private lines the city is aware of as of this date. Homeowners, businesses, even realtors and insurance agents have a right to know this information. When I asked Mr. Morris yesterday about why the city has not communicated this information to homeowners, he said the city is under no obligation to communicate this information, especially when the city does not know where all the private lines lie. I have supplied you with property listings, that's in your packet, from all the homes for sale in our neighborhood. Different real estate companies, different real estate agents, but all say city sewer. I was coming home from work today and Bridge City Realty just listed a new property at 2626 Clearview Street. Doug Bauman actually previously owned the home prior to the seller that's in it now. I called Mr. Klingman, who's the list agent, and said, just by chance, what does that say on the listing? And he said, city sewer. And I happened to call Doug Bauman yesterday and asked him in all the years he lived on Clearview Street, had he ever heard of anything as a private sewer? And he said no. And as a matter of fact, in the late 70s, early 80s, Pat Stockton put in an in-ground pool in that backyard and had a city permit to connect that pool up to a sewer line. So I'll just leave that information with you. Obligation or no obligation, it would be a good practice and customer service to notify homeowners the status of their sewer if they are on a private line, and to do so annually and in writing. Avoiding this communication puts homeowners and realtors at risk. When I posed this question to Mr. Morris about how anyone would find out if the home or business was on a private sewer, he said that they would have to call. He said any inquiries would have to go to the Department of Public Works Director, Larry Seals, at 641-683-0861. And I have encouraged many people to do just that. Other issues I would like you to think about include how a private sewer will be handled when sewer separation comes to our neighborhood. Why homeowners in our neighborhood are being offered the home serve protection due to sewer separation process if our neighborhood is served by a private sewer. Interestingly enough, the citizen that contacted Mr. Seals this afternoon and was told they're on a private line has already secured the home serve protection. So that will be interesting should something happen. And whether or not the recent home valuations included information about sewer access, private or public. These valuations were so potentially volatile that homeowners had to go to the law center to request review of their valuation. If the city council deemed that all sewer lines within our city limits were public and operated and maintained as such, all of these issues would go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I just, for the record, wanted to extend that we normally have a shorter
3-minute
timeline, but
No.
because of the nature of this, and it's been an ongoing issue, I allowed a little bit more time, and I think your letter, if you would share that with us, we'll take that into account.
Certainly. Thank you.
Any comments from council? Any other issues? There's another gentleman that wants to speak.
I would like to make a comment, just, Jody, as a matter of clarification. All homes in Ottumwa are on private lines. The line is private from your house to the center of the street or wherever it happens to be. Yours just happens to be a little bit different situation. And we do have numerous homes in Ottumwa, I don't remember the numbers, Larry would know, on septic systems. So they do not pay sewer fees. Just a matter of clarification.
I'm aware of that.
Okay.
From my property line out, but it's when it goes on that.
Okay.
Yes. Even if it's in the center of the street, you still have to pay to maintain it to the center of the street.
Okay, is there, excuse me, anybody else? Jeff, is it?
Yes.
Would you come forth and give us your, it says Clarence and Harold's Branch?
Yes, Jeff Salter, I live at 509 Clarence. I believe there was discussion last meeting in regard to, with Mr. Witz in regard to Harold's Branch. Clarence Street happens to intersect Harold's Branch. There again, 509. I live between West Highland and Harold's Branch. There's also Felix Street intersecting there. Our street is minimally maintained at this point. I'd like show of hands. Anybody here that doesn't live on a page? Anybody at all? No, there isn't. We do. There was a grader came up and pushed around some sand and debris from winter work on. In the past, our street was rocked and then oiled or whatever the substance was, and some sand, and makes a nice surface. It is very much like asphalt. So my question is, what are we going to do with this street? We're going to put full surface concrete or asphalt, or just leave it to disintegrate? I myself own and pay taxes on 9 properties in the area. two of them with homes on them, one of them with attached garage to my house. And I assure you from these recent evaluations, it's not a minimal amount of tax in regard to my income and my wife's income. There are various service providers that use our street daily: U.S. Postal Service, police, sheriffs, UPS, FedEx, utilities, sanitation, streets, water, inspections department, fire department, out-of-town visitors, people that used to live there, who live in a very scenic area, much wildlife there. I would encourage each and every person here to come and view our street and bring your wives and your children. Wait a minute, it may not be safe for your children, so you may not want to bring them. But we need something done with our street. This discussion time and time again about this. I feel that the way it's been handled in the past is a very minimal expense to the city. Mr. Stevens is aware of that. You were in charge of streets in the past. We got the job done without a whole lot of complaint. Yes, there are very few homes on this street now, but we do pay taxes. We have all improved our homes, improved our properties. We maintain our properties. You don't have to come up there and slap a mowing fee on us because we take care of those things. Now, all we ask is a simple consideration. There are other folks that I'm sure that would love to come and speak here, given the time, and they probably will. And if we need to have a petition, we'll have a petition. And there again, this is a public safety issue, and we pay our taxes. Let's get just a little something for that. Okay? And also, I might add that I've owned my home since 1989, and in that time frame between now and then, also we have a sales option tax. That's a lot of bread there, and we feel that our street is a minimum amount of maintenance. And I know there's lots of streets in this town. I've heard that, blah, 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 blah. But this one, I think, is a minimal amount of money to take care of it. So let's just take care of it and do it the right way. Mr. Whitson, he's a business owner himself, and he pays various vendors. There are other folks. I have a neighbor at the bottom of the hill, a young man, young family that has a rare health condition. And Clarence Street, in regard to Harold's Branch, is an alternate way out in regard to high water. And it's essential, whether you like it or not. And so all I ask is your consideration. Come and look at it, folks. See if you'd like to live on this street. We'd love to live on this street. We have a nice home, maybe not so compared to some other folks here, but we think it's pretty darn nice. And our neighbors are as well. We've done a lot of work. And please address the issue if you would. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. We will take a look at it. We have been out. I know Skip and I both have been there, and we give it some consideration.
Okay, everybody, come and look. See what you think.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to address the council on any issue? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for...
Your Honor?
Yes.
Hold me 1 second. Can I go back to Jody for one issue?
Certainly.
And I wanted to make sure I give him time, this gentleman here, time to address the council, so I held off on that. Can we maybe... taking off here, and I know Bob J isn't here right now, but I think one of these things on this list that Jody requested is pretty darn easy to fix.
That has been fixed.
And has it been fixed?
It has been done.
Okay.
We're getting some of them done.
Okay. And I know all of them we can't get to either right away or who knows in the future, depending on Joni and the legal opinions there. But one thing that concerns me here, and I've been an advocate and seen things a lot through your lens, Jody, on this issue, and talking to Larry a lot too. One thing I do agree with and advocate for is people need to know whether they have a private or public sewer. Now, whether or not we have the financial capability of doing any of this that we can, have been requested to do here or not is another day, but we'll certainly keep working on it within the lines of our budget and the law. But people now are going to and back then I've said are going to want to know and should be able to know. However, that does require a lot of staff time, and Larry, you and I have talked about this. So moving forward, first of all, people need to know. So how are we going to, when they call, would it not be easier to somehow, as time would allow staff, to put together a map that does denote private and public sewer lines somehow? Because what we're either going to get is a lot of phone calls or a lot of public requests for information on maps of every single part of our city. And I know you put together some that quite a while, but one thing I noticed was we have a lot of private sewers that include the hospital, they include Pennsylvania Place, a lot of public sewers or private sewers. And we talked yesterday and I asked you, I said, how come, maybe we should stop doing private sewers? And you told me, and I understand this, we can't really say no, we can't do private sewers on subdivisions and stuff. So that stuff is going to continue. So we're going to have to somehow handle this. And I don't know if it would come as a directive or just something we could work out either now or in the coming weeks, but putting together something where people can either see it on their own time or be able to access it on GoTV or the internet or our website or something. It won't be overnight, but can we at least agree that that is something we should look at?
Asked and over time, people have called in, real estate agents have called in and asked that question, and we will look. It's the same way as if people call in and would ask, what is the lot depth, or what is the lot width, or is there property pins been located in our area? We provide that information when they call. It's hard to anticipate what somebody needs to know because there's so many transactions throughout the community. But in that exact location, not that house, but in the area that's served by those sewers, we've had calls over the years. So there's a little bit of onus on the owner themselves to do the due diligence to look. You would assume certain things, but that still falls back on.
Well, I was too kind of worried about that may create a backlog in the calls and may create a problem, but people are still going to need to know and should know, and that may, be all at once. I don't want to see it create a problem.
Well, and Matt, maybe Jody and Ed, you could weigh in on this. Does our new visual online Civitas map provide that information, or can we add that to it? My understanding is it will give us, a lot of information about each parcel of land here in the city.
To answer your question, Mayor, it does not. I mean, that would be a layer that would have to be integrated into it. Obviously, it would have to be part of a shapefile or something that you normally use as part of a GIS program, and that's labor intensive, and I don't know if that's available, but nevertheless, that's not part of the interactive zoning map.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just one comment on that, and that relates Larry to weigh in on and see what his thoughts are. But the issue, I think, to the councilman's point, I think it's a good idea for us certainly to keep a track of those sewers that are in fact private. However, if you're going to go back a period of time, let's say 40, 50, 60 years ago, when a lot of these private lines were put in, the developers or builders at the time didn't come in and wave a flag and say, by the way, I have a private sewer. So a lot of these we find out quite frankly, by accident or by design. Mm-hmm. These are difficult to identify, and I have no doubt at all that Larry can put together that map or maps that can indicate that, but I do want to be clear on one item, and Larry can confirm or deny this. There is no specific roadmap that's going to identify every single private sewer.
Was put in without staff's knowledge or without being inspected. I mean, when you look at a cities as old as ours, there's a lot of things happened over time. The records in more recent years are very accurate, but some of the early ones are not.
I don't think anybody would ever argue that, and I think we'd have to just say, that's before the dinosaurs roamed the earth. But at this point, this is a sewer that we can verify was private. We have documentation on it, and that's all we can do as a city. But with those out there, I think we need to at least acknowledge that if there's a way to find out, or if it takes 6 months, it takes 6 months, a year. I know we don't have a lot of resources with cash or staff time, but I think we need to put the effort into it to at least, and that's one council member, not making a directive or trying to direct staff, but just say there's things we can do better around here, and this is maybe one of them we can make an attempt at.
I think one of the things you'd have to do is actually go by subdivision and see how the council at that time had intended the services to be. That was an agreement that was made in 53. I have no idea what all went on to come up with that process or why they chose to do it in that method. And again, the only place you'd have to go into the subdivision and then go back and find council action for each of the subdivisions if you are going to nail down exactly what every line is. And that is very time consuming.
Councilman, go ahead.
Thank you. I tend to agree with Councilman Dalby on this. You know, I understand that it would be extremely labor intensive, and quite honestly, right now, it might be beyond the scope of practicality to identify each and every private sewer. But to that respect, the ones that we know right now are private. For example, the sewer lines that are running behind Clearview. I would think that it might be a good idea for the city, just for full disclosure, to even just put up a generic map on the city website or something to indicate that these sewers are indeed private. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with communicating those that are private right now that we know of. That way, at least the citizens that are in those areas would know that they're on a private line. That way, you know, we don't have another instance come forward that somebody is looking for reimbursement from the city because they, for all intents and purposes, thought they were on a public line, and they in fact weren't. And it would have been a matter of somebody scanning a document in and putting it on the website to where the city could say, we communicated this with you 2 years ago when we put it up online, or whatever the case may be, as opposed to, you know, just saying, well, you know, nobody came forward and asked, so we're not going to bother communicating that with anybody.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Myers.
Well, it's just all the ramifications that have been pointed out, which are really good. But it's also been pointed out, whether it's labor intensive, whether it's financial or whatever else. I think the points that have been brought up are so strong and so good. This is obviously something that staff needs to take a look at, and we need to go back to that, as opposed to us individually trying to dissect and figure out what we should or shouldn't do. I think it needs to go back to staff, and certainly Mr. Morris is aware, everybody's aware of the issue, so it's not going to be just forgotten. But I think it needs to go back to staff and developed.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, certainly that's something I'll work with Public Works on, and that is developing that series of maps. I know Public Works already has a number of those identified anyway. That's certainly something we can work on and move forward on.
I think I just weigh in on this, not necessarily on this issue as a sewer, but I know Mr. Morris and I took a trip today and visited a neighborhood, and we found another problem that we're very much aware of, but the solution is not very good. And so we're looking at options and what are possibilities. And I think it's going to come back to you as a council to say, either we do something different, because I think people do expect, they're paying taxes, they're trying to keep their properties up, and some of these issues are from the past, and certainly new council can't be held accountable for that. But once we identify a problem, we need to move towards a solution, and maybe it's going to have to be a collaborative solution with the owners and the city working together, because we keep finding more and more situations like this that are really, if I can use the term, sins from the past that we just inherited. And I don't know that there's a good answer tonight, but we will look at it. And I think between Public Works and our city administrative staff, we'll get on it and see what we can come up with. And it will not just drop dead at this point. Is that satisfactory to you for tonight? Because I don't know we can solve it tonight.
Yeah, I would just like to agree with the rest of the council that have spoke here. I think we need to go as far as we can go with what we know where it's at. And if we discover others, there may be some others out there. I can think of a couple we haven't even talked about. Go as far as we can go right now with this mapping system. And then if we discover others, add them to it as we go. It's just like some of the other covenants that were in some of these subdivisions. And like the mayor said, what was there that was supposed to happen didn't happen, and it was the fault of our planning and zoning department back when. Now we have to deal with it in this same situation here. We weren't aware of this and now we have to deal with it some way.
Okay. With that, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.